All right, so this is my bright muse today. This is Miss Colleen Michaelis, and let me tell you, this lady is amazing. My kids were listening to Living on a Prayer in the car, and Helen Kate was like, "Stop, I know this song." It's like, yeah. And it's because of her.
Yeah, we play a lot of fun music in the gym.
She's my kids' PE teacher. So I brought you in today to kind of talk about your story, and then just how that can affect and impact other people's lives today. So
yes,
let's hear a little bit about you.
Okay, first of all, I love that you have your Team Tommy shirt on.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll say a little bit about Tommy. Tommy was a very charismatic kid, an amazing athlete, had tons of friends across every friend group. He included everybody pretty much. And he commanded the room when he walked in.
My kids remember him.
Yeah, he used to come to Pinkerton and help me a lot in the gym. And he always made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He had such a gift for that. He was fearless when he was growing up, on a bike, on a skateboard, in the ocean, ultimately on a lacrosse field. I know, he made my knees weak, but at the same time I was proud, you know? And he was a student at Coppell High School. He played on the Coppell lacrosse team, on the team that won 2 state championships. Impressive. He was Rookie of the Year in 2010. And his sophomore year, he was named by Inside Lacrosse as the up-and-coming Midi, the Midi of the Year, Rookie Midi of the Year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was insane. By the end of beginning of his junior year, he had 41 Division I scholarship offers for lacrosse. So I've spoken before about his beginnings of struggling with drugs, and I would say that around his sophomore year, he started doing things that I thought were typical high school stuff, typical high school experimentation. I knew he had tried pot. I don't think he was smoking it all the time.
Yeah.
I knew he had tried drinking, but we never had a moment where, like, I had friends of mine that would say, you know, their child came home and they knew that they were drunk and they, you know, it was an awful night and all that stuff. We never had that moment with him. And really, although he did have, I mean, sure he drank sometimes, that was not his drug of choice. Mm-hmm. What the doctors called it was kind of a tornado of things happening that, you know, can spiral you. And if you're not resilient enough, you would have thought Tommy was resilient enough because he was really one of the most confident kids I'd ever seen. Mm. But it can kind of send you into a tailspin. And he went to a doctor, and the doctor prescribed him Xanax and Lexapro in less than 9 minutes. So that started his, I wouldn't say he was addicted to Xanax, but he definitely misused Xanax. Yeah. And his senior year was tough. But, you know, Tommy was so great over here. He was so great all the time over here that you think that greatness is going to win out.
Yeah.
And so I was worried, but then we'd have a period of time where everything was fine. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be worried, and we'd have a period of time where everything was fine, you know. In hindsight, we, as parents, probably should have addressed that even more than we did his senior year. But we were like, he's going off to college, he's gonna be fine. And, you know, if you saw Tommy, like I always go back to this, he looked like $1 million.
Yeah.
And he would come in and he'd have a great conversation with you. And so you just think that side of your child is gonna win out. The thing that a lot of parents think is they think that a kid on drugs isn't involved in anything. Mm-hmm. Tommy was involved in, obviously, lacrosse, peer tutoring, Special Olympics, coaching at Pinkerton,
and
coaching
he had
little
really
kids,
good grades.
Coaching,
right.
And he had really great grades. Kids on drugs can be kids that look like anyone, and they can look like your kids, and, you know, obviously my kids, and they could be wearing a jersey for their high school, and or they can be spending, you know, 20-something hours at dance. Keeping up that perfect persona is exhausting.
Yeah.
And when you couple that with a high school, you know, this is a positive thing. You know, 90-something% of our kids go on to 4-year colleges. That's awesome and great. And they come from educated families, most of them. And all of that is great, but sometimes the pressure to get into a certain school, there's a school for everybody. So we put a lot of pressure on them. They're not developmentally really ready to handle it. And so therefore there are many that go to other substances, unfortunately. And those substances can come from a prescription from a doctor, like Tommy's initially did. They can come from your mom or dad's medicine cabinet. They can come from alcohol. They can come from smoking. What we try to do, try to talk to kids about positive stress relief, working out, or reading a book, or watching a movie, or hanging out with friends, in a positive way. So for Tommy, what happened at Ole Miss was he had a wakeboarding accident at the end of his sophomore year, and he went to a urgent care outside. Not that all urgent cares are bad, but this one was just off campus, and he was prescribed 3 refills of hydrocodone, 90 pills.
90
and
pills.
He told me, recently, he said, all that other stupid stuff, going on, he goes, I had that handled. He goes, what I couldn't conquer was opiates. And so many people don't understand when they're giving their kids hydrocodone or tramadol or Vicodin that they're giving their kids a lesser form of heroin.
Wow.
And so
you don't think about that at all.
No. And so when a kid, breaks their arm and needs surgery, boom, they're given an opiate. When a kid has their wisdom teeth out, they're given hydrocodone. Tommy was given hydrocodone for a lacrosse injury his junior year. He just happened to be under my roof, and so I was very, very cognizant of it.
Yeah.
And so what happens when your body becomes addicted to hydrocodone or whatever it is that you happen to be taking, that high, that feeling that you just expressed,
right,
that lasts for a very short period of time. And then you're overcome with just trying to function and just trying to keep yourself from not getting sick. It's called dope sick, because the withdrawal from opiates is so painful and so awful, and it's like food poisoning times a bazillion. And what happens with opiates is the brain literally gets rewired, into believing and feeling, and you're physically feeling like you need opiates just like you need food or water. So as like an analogy that I used, and I don't even think it's anywhere near this, but it kind of brings some understanding, is imagine if you hadn't eaten for 5 days and you are starving and your body needs food, and someone walks in with, for me, it'd be a big bowl of pasta. For you, it might be chocolate cake, whatever it is.
Right.
Your favorite food. And they come in and they place it in front of you, and then they walk away and say, you can't eat anything.
Wow.
Well, that craving is so great, that you're going to. And then, the other thing that it does is there's such a shame in it, shame in the addiction, that it becomes this self-fulfilling, this circle of just, you might stop and then you go, well, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not going to be able to stop anyway. And so then you relapse. And, another very interesting fact, and why you would never want to go down the road starting with prescription medications like that, is because for 1 year of total sobriety, an opiate addicted person goes through 8 years of relapsing, maybe treatment, maybe it takes 8 years of treatment to get 1 year on average of sobriety. And
so much work.
And it is, when we turn and we look at it as a disease, a lot of people say, well, it's a choice, they're taking a drug, it's a choice. 97% of heroin users now started off on a prescription medication. If it's a disease, you're going to treat it with all of the medical knowledge that you have, right? And so there are drugs out there that can alleviate some of the craving that people who are addicted to opiates get, and it can help them through their recovery. And there's a 70% greater chance of recovery with those. there's a stigma surrounding that, like you're trading one for the other. You don't get the high.
Yeah.
It just alleviates the cravings. And, you know, after a certain period of time, people are typically able to wean themselves off of that. But, you know, who cares? If you were taking a medicine that got rid of your cancer,
right?
You know, and so, or diabetes, or, you know, any of the other major illnesses that we have. So, you know, there's over 2.5 million people in the United States are addicted to opiates as we speak. 72.
I can't even fathom what that number looks like.
72,000 people died in 2017 of an opiate-related death, and there are upwards of 150 people a day that are dying from an overdose. And you know, if ISIS was here killing 150 people a day in the United States of America, there'd be a SWAT team on every corner. You know, so we have to look at it that way. The drugs out there are being laced with fentanyl, and fentanyl is 50 times higher than heroin. And most people think, oh, well, they're just lacing heroin with fentanyl. Heroin, like 3 little grains of salt, can kill a man, can kill an adult man. And fentanyl was the #1 thing in Tommy's toxicology report. He didn't know that that was in there, you know?
Oh,
and,
wow.
And so, but not just heroin is being laced with it. Cocaine is being laced with it. Xanax that people are buying on the street. You know, they've got their drug dealers that make their own pills. That's in Xanax that's being bought on the street. OxyContin that's being bought on the street.
But yeah, how can we better talk to our kids?
Well,
on their level that they understand. You know, about
we need to. The average age in Texas for experimentation with smoking and alcohol is 11. Jeez. The average age. So, and unfortunately, there isn't any curriculum for it until 7th grade. And so by then, it's too late. And of course, they're, you know, in middle school, and we don't know what we're talking about, and, you know, that kind of thing. If we can get them before. Yeah. And not just the say no to drugs. There has to be more than that. Yeah. More education.
My kids have asked questions about it, and it's been really great to be able to have a real conversation. I mean, not that it's great, you know, how it came up.
Right.
But they get it. It's not, I feel like I'm approaching this differently now. Like, you know, when they were little, we would go through little books and talk about good touch, bad touch, what's okay, you know, verbiage from adults and what's not okay. Like, this should be the same thing. Like, they understand that.
In that book, Dope Sick, one of the little sections that she wrote about, and she said, you know, we accept risk-taking and drug use far more in the African American community and in poor rural communities. Yeah. But the drug issue is just as serious in middle class and upper middle class towns. And Tommy was a great kid who got great grades. It can happen to anybody. We need to really send a strong message to our kids that we're not joking around. Yeah, yeah. The reason I'm speaking about this is because if I can help one kid or one family change the trajectory for them, then, you know, it's worth it. This, Tommy, it's an awful, awful, awful thing, but if any good can come from it, conversations you're having with your kids, us having this conversation right now, the school district becoming even more aware.
Your strength through this and your passion to want to share this has been amazing.
Thank you.
Because I can imagine it would be really easy to just close shop. Yeah.
Get under your covers.
Yeah, which I'm sure is a temptation probably every day.
Yeah.
If not, every day. So thank you for doing this. And it helps, yes, us to be aware, hey, just look out for this thing. Because even in a, you know, quote unquote, good community, good family, it may be worse that we're not watching for this.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, that's, you know, I go back to the kids look so great. They must be great.
Right.
So just, being aware of that. Cool. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Colleen.
Okay. Thank you.